Hello, so the prompt I chose was the one about compliance gaining. I'll go over persuasion versus compliance, compliance gaining strategies, situational dimensions and other factors, power relationships, and compliance gaining in romantic reconciliations, and also the ethical implications of compliance. So for persuasion versus compliance, persuasion is an umbrella term. It's concerned with changing beliefs, attitudes, intentions, motivations, and behaviors. Whereas the study of compliance is more restrictive, it refers to changes in a person's overt behavior. Compliance is not trying to change beliefs, only the behaviors. It's concentrated on influence in interpersonal face-to-face interactions, not in one-to-many contexts. It's also focused on senders more than receivers. An example of compliance would be a mother trying to get her son to take out the trash. If he says he doesn't want to, she will respond, "I don't care what you want, take out the trash." So in this instance, it's compliance because she's not trying to change his opinion. She just wants to change the behavior. So here are all the compliance gaining strategies. They include promising a reward, threatening punishment, using positive expertise, using negative expertise, promoting liking, using reciprocity, administering punishment, creating indebtedness, generating moral obligation, promoting positive esteem, promoting negative esteem, using positive altercasting, using negative altercasting, being altruistic, using positive admiration, using negative admiration. So these are the ones from our lecture slides, but there's also many more as well. So from a study from Cody, Wolfel, and Jordan's 1983 study, when selecting compliance gaining strategies, there are 7 situational dimensions that affect those decisions. Firstly, there's dominance, which is the level of power or control in the relationship. Then intimacy, which is the level of emotional attachment. There's resistance, the degree to which a persuader thinks a strategy will be resisted. Personal beliefs, the extent to which the self or the other is benefited by compliance. Rights, the extent to which a persuader thinks a request is warranted. Relational consequences, the degree to which a strategy will have long-term or short-term effects on the persuader's relationship with the persuadee. And finally, apprehension, the degree to which a persuader perceives nervousness about the situation. So in the study, situational influences on the selection or avoidance of compliance gaining strategies, a test of motivation to communicate by Javidi, Jordan, and Carlone in 1994. Situational factors are defined as the relational or contextual variables which impact an individual's strategy selection. Participants' need for control associated with the selection of compliance gaining strategies across all situations, and the decision to not select certain strategies was associated with a variety of low-intensity motivations to communicate. Also, personality factors such as aggressiveness, argumentativeness, apprehension, dogmatism, and rigidity can influence behaviors and motives as well. So in a study by Miller, Bolster, Roloff, and Seibold in 1977, long-term consequences were associated with high probability of use of reward-oriented strategies and the activation of commitment with positive connotation strategies like positive altercasting, altruism, liking, and promise. Short-term consequences were associated with high probability of the use of liking and low likelihood of the use of moral appeal. So power plays a large role in the selection of compliance gaining strategies. There's 5 bases of power. Firstly, there's reward power, which is control over some valued resource, such as promotions and or raises. There's coercive power, the ability to inflict punishments, like the ability to fire you. There's expert power, which is why you listen to a doctor's advice when you're sick. There's legitimate power, which is based on formal rank or position, so the vice president of your company would hold his power over you. And finally, there's referent power, when the person they are trying to influence wants to be like them. So a mentor or older sibling you might look up to would have this power. So in this study, One More Try, compliance gaining strategies associated with romantic reconciliation attempts. This study examines rekindling relationships under a compliance gaining framework. The variables relevant to a person's choice in reconciliation strategy were responsibility for the breakup, their satisfaction with post-breakup relationship, and closeness with their former partner. The findings were that the top strategies used were explanation, which is explaining why you should both reconcile, setting the scene, could be calling them on the phone to say why they want to meet them in person, and referent appeal, reminding ex-partner of the good times shared together. People were more likely to use positive strategies such as referent appeal, promise, liking, or neutral strategies, information seeking, setting the scene, rather than negative strategies like aversive simulation or guilt to win back their ex. This type of situation also has long-term consequences. Liking and promise were prevalent strategies due to this. The partner's relational history also may cause the partner attempting reconciliation to use alternate compliance-gaining techniques than they would use typically or in other situations. 66% of the participants in the study suggested using multiple strategies in order to attempt reconciliation. Reconciliation also was found to be perceived by many as a situation that involves numerous attempts at gaining their ex-partner's compliance, because it is likely to be a fairly big decision for that person. So in terms of ethical considerations, one ethical implication is considering the use of threats in order to gain compliance. Threats are used fairly frequently in this context and are usually very effective. We have to question if this is ethical at all. Should threats ever be used, and why? The answer to that can be quite subjective. Additionally, we have seen how compliance is distinct from persuasion. Therefore, is compliance ethical if there is less of a choice involved as opposed to pure persuasion? It seems it sometimes can be more forceful rather than convincing. However, there's an argument to be made that it is more ethical than just pure persuasion. It isn't trying to change someone's beliefs necessarily, but it is trying to reach an agreement. The parties are usually both consciously aware of this sort of persuasion taking place. There's less room for deception here as well. And here are the sources.